All right, so because I'm an idiot, what Jay requested was The Killer 1989, which was by John Woo, versus The Killer 2024, also allegedly by John Woo. I'm skeptical after watching it. Not the Michael Fassbender one, but at least a couple decent movies slipped in there because I messed up his request by being a retard. So I'm going to compare The Killer 2024 to the original in 1989, but I'm not going to go through the whole 1989 one again because I just did in my other video. But maybe I'll just combine the two videos into one big mess because why not? So this killer movie, I'm really skeptical that it was by John Woo. I know he's credited for directing it and writing it, but this hits all of the check boxes of just Hollywood, political, cultural war, horse shit, woke, if you like that word, I hate it. And it was just a horrendous movie. It felt like maybe he was given credit, but didn't really care and just kind of turned the reins over to somebody else. Or maybe he's just lost touch in his old age. I have no idea. The movie is an abomination. So let's just get into it. This movie has some of the same broad strokes as the original. You have Miss Sanday replacing the main guy in the original, and Sam Worthington is kind of her handler, but he has more power than a regular handler, so he's almost like just the boss. And this one's in France. The last one was obviously in China. And this black dude is the main cop throughout the movie. And pretty much the whole movie is kind of like the first one with the same broad strokes, except girl boss bullshit. And there's not a problem with girls being your lead action character. I don't understand the casting for it like 95% of the time. So for those of you who don't recognize her, she's Miss Sanday from Game of Thrones, and she looks like she's about 5'6" and 100 pounds. Okay, so I Googled it. She's 5'7" and 120. They never cast big, strong-looking women because you don't have to cast a woman who can actually beat up men. They just have to look like they can. I have no clue why we don't see more Gina Carano, Gwendolyn Christie, even someone who's smaller. If they look muscular, like Emily Blunt in Edge of Tomorrow, you can get away with a little bit more. And I think the bigger problem might actually be the choreography because they want to give the women like, oh, the badass, she's so strong, beats up all the men choreography. And they don't make them fight like women or make them fight in a different style than men where they can't just brute force people. And it makes it even worse because within this movie, when the black dude Say is fighting other men, he does take hits. He gets tired. The choreography is much faster. So there's enough verisimilitude there that you don't get thrown out of the movie and kind of lose your sense of disbelief. And when you see Miss Sanday fighting people, it's very slow. It looks ridiculous because she's so small compared to the bigger men. And then she also never gets her ass beat until the last fight, which is against a woman. And then on top of that, they just make these female action people look bored. Like, she can clearly act. There's moments where you can see it throughout even this piece of shit. But she's like a plank of wood 95% of the time. And this whole thing is pretty disappointing because all they had to do was put the movie in France, America, wherever, and just pretty much redo the first one. This one loses any kind of morality that might be interesting. It really doesn't earn this buddy camaraderie that you get from the original. In the original, the whole movie is about the main guy trying to atone for a fuck up. So this guy Coco is a criminal. He shoots the cop that you just saw in the car. He's not hurt. No one important dies in this movie because this one has no balls, unlike the original. They get in a shootout. The dude's running, literally takes a child hostage, and the black dude shoots him. He dies. They find his cell phone, and he was texting the chick in the movie that's the singer. So what you find out later, and they do this as a big twist, but it actually undermines the whole movie. The chick who's the singer, the main killer, Z, lets go when she goes to this club and kills all these people because she thinks that she's just a civilian and she has a rule against killing just regular citizens. So what you'll find out is that this guy right here taking the kid hostage and his group of friends robbed this foreign prince of his drugs. And then Sam Worthington's boss sent Z or Miss Sanday in to kill all those guys. So she goes in the club, clears it out, kills all of them. And they find the text from this girl to the guy. You find out partway through that she was in on it. Even though she's blind now, you don't care. So she's just a piece of shit who helped other drug dealers rob a drug dealer. So it completely undermines the whole morality that the first movie had, where he also wouldn't kill ordinary people, but you watch him risk himself to save a child. You see that he refuses to kill any cops. Like, it makes it much more of a gray area when he's only killing people that he thinks deserve it. And it makes the relationship between him and the cop feel much more authentic. And this one, it makes the relationship between Z and Say just feel like, well, the script says so. And it also kind of undercuts what you would expect the twist to be, that, oh, Sam Worthington lied to her, he's a bad guy. But no, he didn't. She just suddenly didn't want to do her job And whenever the girl starts being emotional, she just starts crying and refuses to kill her repeatedly at the cost of other innocent people, by the way. So she goes to kill all these people. She doesn't ask why. She just knows that they're bad people. Kills them all with samurai swords. Fucking awful action scene, so slow. You can see she cuts this guy in half with a fucking sword. Not quite literally, but that's the implication here. I mean, you can see she's just muscling these guys very slowly with arms about as thick as my dick. It does the thing in the first one, except in the first one, he shoots across the girl to shoot a bad guy, and because he's arrogant, grazes her eyes, and she has this messed up corneas. In this one, she shoots the guy through a bottle, the glass sprays, the girl falls and hits her head, and they're like, oh, it could be temporary or permanent, we don't know. So spoiler, the bitch is blind for the whole movie, and then at the end, sees Jesus in the church behind the pigeons that John Woo loves, and gets her sight back. And in the original, the whole thing is that he has to raise the money and take her to America or a foreign country to fix her eyes. So his deliberate goal and atonement is to help her. So all of that interesting stuff is just gone for really nothing to replace it, except it makes our character more immoral as the movie goes on. Way to go. And that's why I said this feels more like Hollywood than John Woo to me, is that kind of dumb shit. So she has this ridiculous killing scene, kills all the bad people, and now she's crying because she blinded an innocent girl. Again, all of this is completely unrewatchable because when you know that the girl she's crying about is bad, kind of undermines the whole thing. Not to mention, she's not really at fault. The guy that she shot was gonna shoot her, so she didn't really have a choice. Again, done worse than the original, where the woman actually is innocent and he directly blinds her by just being super arrogant. They do the same scene where he's shot near a hostage and he gets lectured. Again, they didn't have the balls to commit in this one at all. In the original, it was a lady. The guy shoots super close to her head, which is way more dangerous. In this one, he has a clean shot. And the woman dies from being scared because she had some kind of heart condition. This one, the kid just gets to go free and he's a hero. And also, no one talks about John Woo's overuse of slow motion that I've heard. Him and Zack Snyder must be bros, because there's a lot of that shit in this one. So there's a little clip for you. The guy literally stands up and just walks in slow motion on a tight zoom on his face. Nonsense. And they do it a lot in this movie, which kind of does make me think that maybe he was involved. Even though I said I think he probably wasn't really hands-on. So Miss Sanday sneaks into the hospital. She goes to poison the girl because Sam Worthington reassured her that he wasn't lying to her, which we find out that he wasn't. The girl says that she has a mom, and suddenly Miss Sanday, the badass assassin, who they talk about as legendary later in the movie, is like breaking down crying every time she interacts with this girl. No fucking reason why. Yeah, the girl has a mom. Who cares? So she tries to like undo the poisoning, but then the black cop guy shows up and asks her questions. He's asking her about Coco, and then just says that she's lying and that she knows him more than she's saying she did. He makes a call to the US Embassy and asks about the fake identity that she's using, finds out that she's not real, and tries to chase her. And he's like amused by this. I don't think this functions nearly as well as kind of their breaking down barrier between assassin and cop as the original, where the cop in the original sees the guy go into the hospital, outsmarts him to escape, and then he appreciates that he has morals and he's also clever. This is just kind of like she lied to him and got away with it. This is the Prince guy that had a plane full of drugs, got robbed by all the people that are now dead that Z killed, or Miss Sanday. And obviously he lies about the whole thing, says that it was a mistake, they targeted the wrong private jet, blah, blah, blah. This whole side plot just undermines the main plot, and the main plot sucks my balls. And I wanted to show this because Sam Worthington is in charge of these assassins. All of them are women. And Sam's frustrated because she didn't kill the chick in the hospital. So he has two guys essentially standing off screen near an SUV. When Miss Sanday says that she's just an innocent girl, he sends the SUV guys to go finish her off the hospital. Also, this whole thing of them being hitmen, with how they act so brazen in this movie, I don't believe it for a second. They do nothing to hide these killings. They even do a montage that I skipped at one point, and she's strangling a dude like in a public park. Not to mention there's cameras everywhere, which comes up again later, cell phones, all the problems that modern movies have when they want to get by these secret societies. We get her backstory here, which is really unnecessary. It makes no sense. She was homeless in Paris. A pimp took her in and beats her up. Sam Worthington gives her a gun and she shoots him in the face. And he's like, wow, you're a badass. Never seen a badass like you before.
Dude, what a big room this is. I walked in here, I said, wow, what a big room.
And then suddenly she's like the best assassin. Fucking awful. No clue why some chick who started training when she looks like she's about 20 would be the best assassin in his stupid organization, but whatever. And then we see shit like this again, which makes her seem to not buy her own principle of not hurting ordinary people. She jumps out in front of a guy's moped and then hijacks it. And also the scene that we're about to get to leads to the death of a bunch of random nurses and doctors, again, so she can protect a criminal. So this whole fucking scene's terrible. The two guys that are supposed to be secret hitman organization literally just walk through the hospital like mass shooters, mowing down doctors and shit, nurses, firing all over the place, and then eventually she kills both, and she gets the wonderful line later on of never send boys to do a woman's job. And I just don't believe John Woo would write that kind of bullshit unless someone wrote it for me. He just kind of signed off on it. Also, this cop tries to arrest this guy like 5 different times at gunpoint. And it's like you just watched him mow down people with no mercy. He escaped once. Shoot him in the fucking face. And especially with how he behaves later in the movie, which is just straight up vigilante, not giving a fuck. This makes no sense character-wise either. But their choreography is 10 times better than the main girls, so there's that at least. Here's another wonderful clip. She's trying to save the innocent girl, quote-unquote, who's in a wheelchair because she's still injured. Instead of fighting this guy one-on-one, she rolls the wheelchair girl across the hall, who they want dead anyway, and then jumps out behind her and shoots. So she used her as bait. Not to mention, she slid feet first, so how fucking bad are his reactions for an assassin? Here's a shittier version of the scene from the original. In the original, they're both in front of the blind girl in the apartment, and neither one of them wants to alert her because obviously he's acting like her boyfriend. He wants to cure her eyes, and the cop doesn't want to alarm her either and kind of get into a shootout with this guy in her apartment. Here, she just says, "Oh, I have more bullets," and then like Vulcan chops his neck and knocks him out like a bitch. After him and that dude just fought for like 5 minutes, punching each other over and over. So she's 10 times stronger. So Miss Sanday takes the blind girl in. It kind of seems like they were going to go with a romance arc and then just didn't. They talk and give exposition. This is when we find out that the girl was actually in on the drug robbery. So Miss Sanday just let a bunch of people at the hospital die for no reason. Saved this girl for no reason. Still cries whenever the girl gets emotional because she's just so fucking innocent. And then for the rest of the movie, still goes on to try to protect this girl. No fucking clue why. Because the characters are dog shit, so who cares? And this was all just to jumpstart her music career. So no real deep reason there. And again, I thought it was so much more interesting in the original when the main guy gets betrayed by his friend who's the handler, but then forgives him. And the guy goes from betraying him to being loyal and ends up dying for him in the end. So much better and so much more interesting line of forgiveness than just, oh, I don't know. I just feel like people deserve a second chance. Suddenly, after becoming a legendary assassin, fuck you. Sam Worthington shows up. He's pissed off about the hospital. And she says, yeah, I took care of it. Fuck her. And because he's an idiot, he just walks right out and believes her. The black dude keeps getting reprimanded. We find out that these cops are all pretty corrupt and don't want the bad politics of letting a prince into the country with a bunch of drugs. So they hid the whole robbery, blah, blah, blah. All the white men are bad, super predictable in this day and age, and dog shit. And at this point, he just kind of goes rogue and gets away with it. So his buddies find this legendary assassin going to the same restaurant every day. Super easy because there's just cameras everywhere. Even though she's like the queen of death or some cringe ass Zack Snyder fucking inspired name. So they wait for her. The black dude's like, yeah, we know who you are, assassin lady. But he lets her eat the lunch and he eats with her and they talk about crosswords. And then she says, I won't give you the girl, but I'll take you to her. And apparently he just accepts this deal for the assassin that they now know killed, at a minimum, 5 people, and more likely dozens. And they do a lot of the whole, oh, you're not so different, you and I. If we had different upbringings, I'd be you and you'd be me. I'm so fucking tired of this reconciliation between protagonist and antagonist. The whole we're not so different, you and I. Especially when they just come out and say it, which they almost always fucking do. And then we get some massive coincidence here, which is why he lets her out, even though it still makes no sense. Where he was going to arrest some guy for drugs. She's in like this dark cubby room on the roof, just waiting for him there to assassinate him. I don't fucking know why she picked that spot. And the guy shoots the main dude in the leg. He goes down and says, what size are your shoes? And he's like, oh, trying to buy time for my partner who's in the street. Great backup he is from the fucking roof. Luckily she was there. So she shoots the guy and saves him because, you know, she's a fucking hero. I don't know. But you can see where she's hiding. It just looks like an empty room with no window on the roof. I don't know. Maybe this is a thing in France. But it's like, where was she going to go if she got seen or caught? And are there no other roofs around? Could this guy not be reached anywhere else besides with his pigeons? Ugh. And also, just what a giant coincidence, obviously. So he goes, don't try anything. We're going to escort you. And literally like 2 seconds later, she just unhandcuffs herself and jumps down this sign like 30 feet sliding and just walks right out. Great security on the assassin, guys. Sam Worthington shoots his boss because he's tired of him. He does it right in the middle of like a fucking gala. He uses the Asian hit lady that works for him. And it's like, again, are there no cameras in this fucking place? I just don't believe with how open they are that they could be hidden for very long or get away with any of this shit. I mean, not that that's like the major problem with this fucking movie anyway. But like at least the original one, he shoots the guy from a boat and then drives away. And he's like trying to be stealthy. Although that has some pretty big open action scenes too. But that's usually involving gangs. It was the 80s. You didn't have cell phones. Security cameras were kind of sparse and kind of shit back then. A lot less to address. And also, that whole thing with her jumping down this sign was just to set up that she's better than the black dude. Because he tries it here and busts his fucking ass. When he's escaping for calling out his bosses for corruption, he has to run and botches it. She's better than him at everything. So she goes to her boss. He's like, we need to talk. And pretty much he takes the girl hostage and wants his heroin or cocaine or whatever the fuck. And this goes on for a while. So he orders her to kill the black dude because he's in the way. And what we find out is the black dude's partner was in on it. We didn't know. So she shoots him but doesn't kill him. And then the Asian lady was supposed to shoot Miss Sanday if she didn't follow through. But she used a dummy and then she shoots the Asian lady in the face. Because they're both snipers and there's all these windows. Really drawn out scene. And at this point in the movie, you're probably asleep or just not even fucking watching. So, meh. So her and the black dude are going to get her friend. And she's just straight up murdering people in front of him. And even though he's a cop, he's like, way to go, sport. So I guess he's just vigilante now. It's gone rogue. So she goes to him. They have a little fight in the cemetery. Black dude mows down some guys. And he's like, hey, you dumb bitch. She's still a hostage. Give me the drugs and you can have her. So nothing's really changed. They're just fighting kind of openly right now. So she gets the girl, gives him the van of drugs, and it blows up. Obviously, he's pissed off now. So they have to have their final duel. They have all their little one-on-one fights. The black dude is fighting the main guy. He ends up losing. And Miss Sanday's fighting the chick who's somehow the only one strong enough to fight her. It's a really long and drawn-out fight. Not very exciting. Because you don't give a shit about any of these people. But I do want to show this part. Because this was one of the only parts that was so bad that it was like funny. That's the only part that I wouldn't be surprised if John Woo had a say in, because it was so over the top, and I just about fell out fucking laughing. Because the whole movie, for the most part, besides being dog shit, has been pretty grounded. There's a little bit of stylized stuff, but not much. And then the movie takes itself so seriously that it also just feels super out of place. Here's also the hilarious death of this girl that she's been fighting for like 10 fucking minutes. I mean, how fucking strong is she? Woo! So he literally has her at gunpoint after trying to kill her repeatedly. And they do the whole villain monologue thing. They bring back the, oh, what size shoes are you wearing? And it goes on for so long that it almost feels like Sam Worthington is like, guys, can you slide the fucking gun over so I can stop trying to give filler? And then, of course, the black dude slides the gun between his feet from like 50 feet away. And he can't react quickly enough to just shoot her. So he watches the gun go through his legs. She picks it up, aims, and puts one in his forehead before he can react. Just fucking awful. She sees the piece of shit that she saved the whole movie get to go home with her mom, back to America. Black dude who goes back to being a cop, even though they're all corrupt, and he turns down the accommodations and promotion. He says he's going to do it to reveal the information, but whatever. And she moves on to fuck off and hope that they get a TV series, I guess. So yeah, just a really atrocious movie. It didn't even have the balls to kill anybody. I like that the original kills the main guy and his friend who are both on the hitman side. And the cop lives. And at the very end, the boss guy that killed the main guy gets killed by the cop, just straight up executed. Because the cop is frustrated at seeing that, these pieces of shit get to go on their way or escape jail or whatever the case is. And he's been influenced by the hitman. Again, way more interesting morality than this one, where the morality, I guess, is just do whatever the fuck you want and it'll work out. But I talked way more about this movie than I wanted to. So Jay got 2 videos out of me for this one because I fucked up. And this was absolutely the first bad movie I've had to watch. Although I still like the original and the Michael Fassbender one. So yeah, if for some godforsaken reason you sat through this movie, let me know what you think. I try to respond to all the comments. like and subscribe and all that shit. Thanks. See ya.